Why does it keep doing that? It's like every time I move closer, it wants to. I'm trying to. Okay. Okay, is it acting fine now? Just waiting for people to come in. Apologies to see the metering get a little bit funky. As you guys can see, it's a bit I'm literally right by the windows. Nobody. There are people. It's just YouTube being weird. Boy, I need my haircut. Okay, so I guess I'll just start the convo up just so turn that off. So the main reason I want to make this a topic is because a lot of the reason why people tend to come to phone reviews these days aren't necessarily because they don't know what phone they want. Um, there tend to be a lot of people that know what phone they want and they get that phone, but they go to reviews for validation of their purchase, right? Something I used to do quite a bit when I was younger. Sorry, my girlfriend's trolling me in the background, but you know, don't do that right now. It becomes a thing where, and this is kind of what makes smaller brands die, I guess. Kind of how BlackBerry kind of lost its footing in the market with both the Key 1 and Key 2 because people wanted the flagship, even though BlackBerry wasn't really trying to make that, or that wasn't really in the vision of BlackBerry, I guess. With the Key 1 and Key 2, and that's totally fine for the people that bought those two phones. And the LE, I think it was the even lower variant of the Key 2. Um, and now there's kids running down the hallway and knocking on doors. But it tends to be this cycle, right, where you have something like an S21 Ultra or an iPhone or whatever, it gets massive praise because you don't want to tick off any particular group of people. But because there's a lack of people buying an LG phone, there's a lack of people buying a Sony phone. Well, not necessarily now, but back when Sony was basically non-existent in the current market, it kind of became this thing where you couldn't get them in carrier stores, so they were irrelevant. And now with LG, when it came to say the V60 and things like that, people held out for things like an unlocked variant, but it just wasn't going to happen. Like it just wasn't. And it became this weird thing where I see far more people when it comes to an LG phone, when it comes to a Sony phone, when it comes to any other device that isn't a Samsung phone or an Apple phone or device, period, it tends to be this it tends to be this one note well, not one note. When it isn't those devices, it tends to be this conversation of what this phone can do, what's its strong suits, what's its failings. Overall, it's still a really good phone, but be clear and say that it may not be for you. And people don't want to hear that. They want every phone to be for them, right? So, this is why I feel it's important to talk about what phone is for you. um, for the longest time since the LG G2 the LG phones have been for me, right? I've dabbled with Samsung phones, I've dabbled with iPhones, I've touched Motorola phones, I've had plenty. And I have a OnePlus 6T, I had a OnePlus One, I had the HTC One M9, I've had plenty, right? And every time I just kept coming back to the same ones, the ones that I actually spent my money on and gave them my support was LG, right? Um, from G2 to G8, or technically G7, the G8 I bought used. From the V10 to the V30, because the V40 I did get used. The V50 didn't come to T-Mobile, so I couldn't get that. And the V60, T-Mobile wouldn't take my money, so I just went over to Swappa for that. And it becomes this thing where I feel, and I don't know exactly how to describe it, where every phone has to suit your needs, and if it doesn't, it's a terrible phone, right? Just like if it's kind of like this very current, entertainment industry right now with movies and things and comic books, where if it doesn't push the narrative I want, it's whatever cis you want it to be, right? Racist, sexist, homophobic, it's any of that, right? It's the most worst thing you could ever have. And with LG phones, it kind of became that where it was like, oh yeah, the G8 has all these very good things for $100, for $100 to $200 less than, say, what's a good, the G7 versus the I think S9. Let me look. Samsung Galaxy S9. 2018. LG G7. Yeah, 2018. Okay, so people looked at the S9 between the S9 and the G7 and said, "Oh, the G7 can't possibly stack up because the G7 doesn't have the variable aperture that the S9 does, right? It doesn't have stereo speakers like the S9 does. It doesn't have these things." When the G7 had it very much had its own set of its particular set of skills, if you will, that no one liked to talk about. For one, it was the first G series phone that just had one variant, and no matter what market you went to, you still got the quad DAC. So it completely stomped the S9 in terms of headphone jack quality and output. Um, Brighter display. Like LG was doing some very cool things with their LCD display where for like 2 to 3 minutes you can have it set to have this super bright mode and you'll be able to use it in that super bright mode. Right. For 2 to 3 minutes if you're outside. It was a very good quad HD LCD too. It was their last LCD they put on a phone. Well, on a flagship phone. And you had Boombox. Boombox was really good, especially on the G7. The G7 had it at its loudest. Then with the V40, they balanced it a little bit better. The V50, when they started doing dual screen cases, it kind of had no real relevance to it. And that's when they started adding stereo speakers, and the V60 has very good stereo speakers. Talk about value propositions and what you can do. What the S9 didn't have that the G7 had, for example, was a very robust manual photo and video mode. A like to me that's still very good. It's had cine videos so you can shoot and log on a phone. Something you can't really do now aside from the Mi 11 Ultra. I think it it was a beautiful phone too. It was quite compact. There are things that LG did with their phones that people just overlooked because it wasn't the Samsung phone of the year. And even though as Samsung decided to whittle back on features year after year, it's still the best phone of this year though, even though it's not the best phone that Samsung put out. Yet last year's Samsung phone was better, but look at this. It's still doing more than the competition when it really isn't. Another prime example, V30 versus Note 8, where the Note 8 and the V30, in terms of their screens, had the exact same goddamn issues. And in my personal experience with both variants with both models of the phone that I had, because I had to get, I got jumped back then, and then I had to get my warranty. I had to pay $200 for both phones individually, and I just had to get a new V30 and a new Note 8. Both times the Note 8 had the worst screen. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Um, and it became this thing where that's why I started to do the display report videos, where I decided to look at problems with the screen and if a screen is actually as bad as people say, right? And lo and behold, a lot of the time when people say, "Oh, the V30 screen is just not that great, it's blotchy and it has color shifting," the the fact that the Note 8 had a curved screen made the color shifting worse, but nobody talked about that because it's a Samsung phone, and the Samsung phone can't have anything better than the best display on the market because everybody buys their displays except for LG. and they've talked an extensive amount of times about how LG should come back to the OLED market with phones. And the moment that they do, after years of not doing it, they do nothing but bitch because it's not up to their standard. But whatever. Um, for the two people that are in the that are watching, I do appreciate it. The main crux of this, I was just trying to talk because I wanted to just pose the question, what phone is meant for you, I guess. What do you look for in a phone? Those kind of deals like that. And that's all I really want to know. I know I got on a tangent about LG and all that crap, but whatever. So yeah. Sorry. And apologies. You see the exposure shifting. When you get closer, it tends to do that. Whereas it's right here, it's totally fine. But at the end of the day, it's bright, right? And it actually looks pretty good. This is the V60, by the way. Another thing people were crying about LG phones is that their selfie game wasn't that great. But to me, this looks totally fine. And that's what's up, man. I'm glad to know you're getting getting a V60. And if you're wondering why I'm sitting and not like outside, I am at my desk with my gaming crap right here. So that's why I'm just sitting and chilling. It honestly works better than going outside and trying to stream like that. But this question mainly came to me because of I'm watching Williams live stream that he did last night, I think, where he's talking about affordable phones versus flagships, um, and what people more go for and things like that, and that's why I decided to pose this question. Oh, three people now? That's odd. Yeah, it's three. Sorry, when I'm doing this, I'm trying to actually see how many viewers are there because it's literally where the blinds are, so it's like difficult to see. This could be a little more of a Q&A video too. I'm not really apologies, but ask me whatever you want. You could say whatever you want, so long as it's not like you know bad stuff. I really need my haircut and new glasses. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I've been like years ago. I was doing live crap, but that's before YouTube decided to change their stuff. You can see my face in those kind of videos too, and I also did like a V30 video test as well, where I did show my face for the selfie cam. I don't tend to do that because I don't really use the selfie camera. That's why people say, "Oh, it's just not the same resolution as this or that." I'm like, I don't care so long as it looks good when I'm using it. It doesn't need to be hyper detailed. But most phones have better front-facing cameras than laptops, which is very funny. But yeah, the only problem is right now I need new glasses because if you guys can see right there, my glasses on the edges of the frame are broken because they fell off my face while I was at work. And when they didn't fall off my face, a box hit me in the head and made my glasses fall and slam to the ground. I couldn't see, so I stepped on my goddamn glasses, and then it broke the frames. Thankfully, the lenses aren't broken or cracked or anything, so I can still use them. But I gotta get new glasses soon. I would do contacts, but 25 years of wearing, well, not 25 years of wearing glasses. Been wearing glasses since kindergarten. But the SPH30i. Yeah, let me look. I heard of those COS headphones. I think I was looking at those at one point. COS SH. No, not Kiss phone. COS. Oh. Let me look at that one more time. I enjoyed doing it because, like, SPH30i. Yeah, whatever. I'm pretty sure I know what they look like. I just wanted to see what they look like. But yeah, COS headphones are really good as well. Yeah, COS is very like funny because they put out very good cheap headphones. Like I was watching Z review, and he did the Porter Pro review, and that dude was just gushing over them. And I was like, damn, really? Mate 40 Pro recently, and man, I really do want that phone too. It really does suck that they don't come stateside, but the i800s, boy, do I miss these. I bought these off eBay for like 200. This is my second pair because my first pair also got fucked when I got jumped a few years ago with the V30 and Note 8. But those had water damage, so one ear is out. But yeah, I'm just trying to. I really do want to get like. Oh yeah, yeah, that's nice. I honestly want to try them because I remember back in the day. I guess it is back in the day. It was back when I was in middle school. But back when I was in middle school, I had like COS headphones, and I was rocking a CD player, which back in 2007 and 8 is very weird. But I guess even back then I was like better quality, and streaming services weren't really around yet anyway, and I didn't have a iPod at that point. But yeah. Oh no, it isn't the. I know about putting Google services on Huawei phones. I've looked it up quite a bit. It's just import prices and all that stuff, and I don't have that much money to play with. I wish I did, but this is the Mate 40 Pro. Why would a 64 gig iPhone 11 still be 480? That Apple crap, man. Those ain't terrible prices, actually. They fall right in line with every other phone. And I really do like how the camera module looks as well. While I take a fucking screenshot, it kind of reminds me of like the Lumias, like not the 1520, which is the one I have, but the 1020. Yeah, that thing looks really slick. I don't know about the edge to edge display. Samsung is still trying to hold on to that, even with the S21 Ultra, where it's kind of curved around the edges, but it's not. And it's fine on here. But say on the Note 10, for example, that shit was just terrible. Like, not terrible, but I just didn't really like it all that much. I never really liked the edge to edge display stuff. Back then I wasn't really into like audiophile stuff because I was only like 12, 13, maybe. So I didn't even know what the hell an audiophile was. No, back then I was going to Target every time I got $20 and bought a new pair of the fucking Skull Candy inked headphones because I didn't know any better and they sounded decent at the time. They actually didn't sound terrible, but when you plugged them into an iPod, listening to Dirty South rap and stuff like that, it just sounded good. So I just was like, yeah, they shorted out and busted. One ear would always bust out every like month, but it's like they look nice though. Like, so I got them. Yeah, the little $20 inked headphones were pretty nice. I don't know how they sound now. They probably would sound bad to me because I've gotten I got expensive. Well, not expensive. Expensive for people that don't go into IEMs, I guess. But when the short tapes are kind of my baseline standard right now. The i800s are really fantastic. I just wish that one ear didn't go out on me. They lasted for quite a bit too. That's what kind of messed me up. I know I could probably just bring them to like some sort of headphone place. I looked it up a while back, but it's really rare to find that crap here in Minnesota. So it was just it was just it was just a sad day for me that day. Um, I remember back in the day when I had my first job at Sears. Um, I was on the Bluetooth train, man. I really was. That was before I got my G3, and I had this Alcatel One Touch phone. I forget what it was called. That thing was it was dog crap, like for real. Like it was laggy. It was the reason I was using it is because I dropped my G2 on the bus, despite the fact that it was still in the case. It's still cracked. That's why I don't really trust cases all that much. But I'll say this UAG Monarch case on my S21 Ultra. I dropped this on concrete. The Ultra's still pristine, so it's like very nice. But with I think with my first check, I got a pair of like some Nakamichi Bluetooth cans. They were bass cannons, but back then I didn't know what that meant. I was like, "Oh, you sound great. I don't need corded headphones." And the main reason I did was like I was doing the same crap that I do at my job now, but it wasn't the idol. It was like some super cheap Alcatel phone. Like I'll try to see if I can find it. But it was a super cheap phone. Was it this? No, I wasn't that. Even back then, bezels weren't fucking that huge. But I don't think I'll be able to find it. Maybe it was that. No, it wasn't that. But yeah, it was just like super cheap Alcatel phone, and it was just bad. Like every key press was like it would take a second for the goddamn phone to register the key. And then I was using this like cheaper Nokia phone, Nokia Windows phone, which actually I would have stayed with, but the problem was the battery wouldn't stay in. So I never actually tried the HTC like Beats branded phones. I always wanted to, and I did want to like go back and buy some of those old phones to see if they hold up. I did have the M9, and the headphone jack was fine. Um, I think people hyped it up a little bit too much, but I think people were mainly just talking about the speakers. But yeah, and I do wish that Sony would actually put in some work with the headphone jack and put an actual a higher fidelity DAC in there. Like they say, hi-fi audio. Like for whatever reason, they always like to say that, but I really wanted to try the U11, but I just never had the opportunity to get it. A lot of people trashed that phone. Wasn't that the one that had the second top ticker display like the V10 V20? Or was it the U12? HTC U11. Oh no. Yeah, I think it was the U12 that had that. One of these goddamn phones. It was probably the U11 Plus. I know damn well I'm not tripping. One of them damn HTC phones had it. I'm shaking around. It sounds like my PS4 is on, but it's not. I really want to get one of these last flagship HTC phones that they put out. Like you go to their site and they just like I'll show you guys, right? You go to HTC site and they just don't have a phone section anymore. The only one that they have is this blockchain phone right here. Like you used like even I think a year or two ago, you were still able to buy the U12, but you can't even do that anymore. It did suck that HTC did eventually take out the headphone jack though. You know, I'm glad LG stuck with it, even though they decided to leave the market. So we still got probably still the best headphone jack out, 60, which is very nice. Unless it just doesn't photos. I know damn well I did 200. Yeah, I'll give that a shot. I know they had like this ear scanning tech, and it was only like proprietary to their phone, so you couldn't use like the USB C headphones with any other phone and have that kind of deal, which kind of sucked. But it was pretty interesting to see stuff like that. Did I take another damn screenshot? Oh no, it was just a video. Yeah, I want to do these kind of live streams more. I plan to do more game streams too, since I finally hooked up my PS4 to my Twitch channel. So, and the quality is actually pretty damn good. A lot of people sit here and say, "Oh, but it's not. It doesn't give you four. No shit, it's not going to give you 4K, but you can still do 1080 60 on a PS4 Pro." And it looked nice. I was playing Doom Eternal on there, and it looked nice. Obviously, you're gonna have dropouts and stuff. It's a stream, but I did want to try the Axon 7 as well, man. Like that phone at the time had a louder amp than the V20, but the V20 just overall was able to drive more powerful, power demanding headphones. And something I did want to see with LG is that them just putting more powerful amp into their phone. That would have been nice. Like, because you only get 75 stops, which is still very loud. Like, it's still plenty loud, especially if you have headphones that don't require much power. But yeah, the headphones that I want to get that are like 600 ohm, because the Quad DAC can drive up to 600 ohm headphones. I think it's the Bear Dynamic. It's not the. I think it's the 1990, bro. That's Hi-Fi Man, dog. Is it these? No, they're not these. Um, there they are. The problem is, I want them in black, right? That ain't it. I want them in black. 600 ohm. See if it comes up then. Oh, they're right there. The 990 edition. That's what they're called. But yeah, I want to get these right here. And I want them in black. But the problem, and I'll show you guys here, they go all the way up to like $700. I use IEMs quite a bit too still. Um I still rock my Sennheiser HD 650s. Those are still great. But I just really want to see how well the Quad DAC does drive high impedance headphones like that. Empire ears. You got some money, don't you? Empire ears, man. I always want their headphones, but they're like so goddamn expensive. You said the Empire ears legend. Yeah, 329. Ooh, fuck. $2,200. Boy, I mean, I could get that if I save money, but if I were working more, I'd get more hours. But the one headphone I really do want, let me go to Lenso Audio. Aside from like the Shure Tape Pro, um, oh, that makes sense. I need to start coming up on some deals too. The A Audio, that's what I was looking for. I want these babies right here. The clairvoyance, the A Audio clairvoyance. I want them right there. Man, man, man. So I want to make sure it's actually attainable. That's the thing. Like as much as I would like a pair of like the Sony IER Z1Rs and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, I'll get them and I'll probably love them, but I'll be hurting. And it's fine. But like I really wanted to see like Mass Drop or Drop um recently did the HD 8XX, which is the HD 800 S's or the 800s. They just tuned them their way. And I wanted to see if those would be that much better, and it sounds like they're not. So I was like, fine. I mainly wanted them because they literally look like a TIE fighter on your ear. Yeah, every time I look at like the clairvoyant, um, everyone is like singing them high praises, and the main reason I want them is because you could customize them, and that's the Thea audio thing, right? It's very nice. Yeah, 10 gets props too. I really wish they would like heighten the impedance on their headphones so that my V60 will treat them as expensive headphones and not just cheapo headphones. Because the problem is I have the 10P1, right? And I know the V60 can drive it because when I do the little I wanted the what was I saying? Fuck. I totally forgot. Damn. I totally forgot. Oh yeah. So when you do the little audio like tricking the V60 into thinking that your your 10p it's being connected to like an external audio source, then it truly drives the P1s. But if you don't do that, it just is like very low and it treats them like a basic bitch like $20 $20 earbud. And it sucks, but that's why I wish LG was put like some high impedance mode that you can toggle into their phones. That would be very sick, but they probably won't, especially at this point. And I wanted to see what the P2s were doing, but them things are like $500 or something. They're like drastically more expensive than um the drastically more expensive than the P1s. Like let me see. Yeah, the P1s are 149 on here, right? Then Scroll down. Oh no, it's not that bad. I don't know why I said 500. Yeah, the P2s are like I want to try the T5s and things look nice. But yeah, the P2s are like 339 or 339 on Linsel anyway. They're on sale. And the P1s are 149 on sale through Linsel. So it's like almost a $200 difference. So that's weird, really weird. But with what you get in the box, it looks pretty damn nice too. So I'm not, and the headphones themselves look really clean. So, or sorry, I had to burp there. Apologies. Yeah, no one really talks about it. A lot of tech reviewers that use the V series, or or that review the V series, even the G series also, because the G7 and G8 also have quad DACs, but mainly the V series because that's where it started. They only really put in like either cheapo headphones or headphones that only go up to like 250 impedance, which is still high. Like I'm not trying to be like, oh, that's not high. It's high, but the the HD 650s or 6XX um go up to our 300 ohm. And then the main reason I want to get those 990 editions or whatever the fuck they're called is because they're 600. They're 600 ohm. And I want to see just how well the phone drives them. Because I saw a video way back in the day of, way back in the day, I keep saying that. It's kind of a black thing. but I saw this video maybe like a year or two ago where someone plugged in a pair of 990 editions to a V20. Hey, that's what's up. Yeah, I don't. The V20 still has quite a bit of draw. Like that's what's really crazy. I think the V30 is very underrated. Um, the V40 kind of is too, but there really isn't a bad V series phone. There really isn't. Like the only reason I didn't get the V50, for example, is because I already got the V40 like a few months before they decided to drop the V50, and didn't really make much sense because I couldn't get the dual screen in America anyway without importing it and all this other stuff. So I just decided I'll just keep it. I'll just wait next year, and that's just what I did. And the V40 is still a really good phone. My dad uses it, and if you, if you want me to vouch for like say using the quad DAC and like car speakers, I let my dad have my V20. Um, he used that a lot for his car speaker, and then his car setup, very expensive speakers and all that sound system. Then I gave him this like cheaper. Then I had this cheaper Sony phone that I let him use, but that headphone jack definitely wasn't up to snuff because he was like, when I gave him the V40, he was like, "Does this do it the same as my as the other LG phone you gave me?" Because that thing banged. I was like, "Yeah, it does." and and then I asked him recently because I'm gonna get him a V60, but I was debating either get him spend the extra $100, get him the V60, or just get him the Velvet because he doesn't really need like massive power on a phone. But then I asked him, I was like, "Do you still use the headphone jack on his phone?" He was like, "Yeah, when I get my car up and running, I'm definitely going to use it." So I was like, "All right, there we go." So yeah, the V50 was exclusively at Sprint for a bit, but then it came to Verizon for like at a weird time. And then Sprint got bought out by T-Mobile or merged, and then T-Mobile decided to completely axe the OnePlus 7T Pro for 5G and the V50 for 5G. So they basically became useless unless you just get them as like a music player and a very good camera. That's that's all they'd really be able to be used for. And that's what kind of sucked, because I would have gotten a V50 eventually, but then I was like, but then I can't use it on anything. So it just like was stupid, you know. It sucked. I may end up getting a V50 eventually because I really do want to see that. I really do want to touch that phone. Mainly because, like the G8, it has that flush camera with the back. That's really nice. I wish LG stuck with that, but then they put the massive 64 megapixel sensor on the back of the phone, which I ain't gonna knock. Yeah, I still have a 6T. The 6T is the 6T shockingly is still running pretty damn good. There's like one game that acts funky with it, and I think that's Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross. But every other game that I play on it still runs well. The battery still runs like pretty damn well. I could keep it off the charger for a whole week. It's like it's crazy. Well, no, the V50, like it's very weird. Like, let me see, because it's either it will work, it'll just be LTE, or it doesn't work at all because they didn't whitelist it for 5G. That was the problem. But I guess what you could possibly do is just get the Verizon V50 and then just get it carry unlocked. But we'll see. Oh, well, no, don't work on T-Mobile. As of January, it just doesn't. It just don't work no more. I'll read what this person put right here. It said, I recently bought a Sprint branded V50, which works reasonably well on T-Mobile. I found out the phone will no longer work after January 2021 because of Sprint slash T-Mobile is not porting VoLTE and Wi-Fi calling over to the device. So much for the young carrier. That's nice. When I called customer service, I was told I have to buy a new phone. I just bought this one. I don't get why I should have to pay for another phone. Yeah, that's what happens, man. When you want to, you want to. Company puts out a really good product, but it doesn't sell well. So what do? They completely gut the phone aspect of it. So the V50, despite being a very good phone, just can't be used on T-Mobile because they don't want to support it. And that's like uh, and I'll tell you right now, back when I used to rock with T-Mobile, because I don't now, I'm on Google Fi and I just buy my phones outright. But every time I went into T-Mobile to get a new phone, they knew I was getting an LG phone every time, Since the G3, that's basically been what I've done. Aside from when I traded in my no, I didn't trade in. I keep thinking I traded in my G4 for the S6, but I didn't. I was actually able to keep my G4 and still get the S6, but the S6 honestly was a I don't want to say dog shit, but it kind of was a dog shit phone. Like the phone overheated. It was quite fucking slow. Yeah, honestly, if you get a Verizon V50, right, and just pay the $20 to get a carrier unlocked, you should be fine. If you don't care about 5G and just want LTE, you should be fine on that. But the V50 was a 5G ass 5G device, right? It literally had that LED light that showed when 5G was on the phone, crap like that on the back of the phone, which is very weird. It was cute, but God, that's what that's what happens, man. It sucks. But they had no problem porting over the Note 10 Plus from Sprint, right? The Note 10 Plus 5G from Sprint, and not having any sort of issues with that. So I'm trying to make sure that my glasses aren't reflecting too much from this ain't reflecting the screen too much. Let me check the battery of this. Only 76. It's getting darker, but it's actually not terrible too. And if it does, I could just turn that light on, that lamp on right there. So yeah, man, it just sucks because that's what honestly kept me from getting the V50 was that one, it was stuck to Sprint, and two, what did they decide to do? Say it just don't work because it can't support 5G. Like really? So it can't even be on LTE. It has to be on 5G. Just like word. And here's the thing: it isn't like 5G, T-Mobile 5G in my area. There isn't any. There definitely is a lot. They push it quite a bit here in Minnesota, and in the cities in particular. But yeah, damn. My 12 Pro Max, the 12 Pro Max is really damn good, and that's actually very. What is the resolution on the Huawei display? Is it just 1080p? I know it's 120 hertz, but is it 1080p? Oh, 14. Oh, that's not bad at all. Is it a variable refresh rate or is it just basic? Like it's just on all the time. 1300. Damn. You know what's really weird about the S21 Ultra? Like Samsung likes to sit here and brag and boast about how bright their displays get, but when I'm outside, max brightness, I don't use auto brightness because I just don't like it. It tends to go up and down a little too much for me. It The screen doesn't seem to be all that bright outside. The V60 when it got Android 11, um, it has this setting in the display settings where you can turn it to be brighter. I forgot what it's called. I think says brighter display or something like that. It's not like massively brighter. It's not like the G7 where you turn on that brighter thing and it's like, but for this, it's like it's noticeably brighter. And I was like, damn. And the V60 before Android 11 had very good outdoor visibility. You can watch my display report and you can see that indeed that's the case. Um, I don't always have this on full blast, mainly because a lot of the time I am indoors, and especially when it's like darker like it is in this room. I don't want to blast my eyes with light. But say if I'm playing a game and the light is on and stuff like that, yeah, I'll turn the brightness all the way up. And I tend to have it up most of the time. But um yeah, the battery just doesn't seem to, the brightness on the display is, it gets really, it gets bright, don't get me wrong. I don't feel it gets brighter than what I already have, basically. Um what's the I think it's 4500 or 4800 on the I keep thinking P40 Pro, that's why. But is it a 45 or 4800 milliamp hour battery? Is it 5? Now let's look. GSM Arena. 4400. Okay. They have a yellow variant. They have a yellow color. That really looks like a Lumia. That yellow is nice. That looks like a Lumia now. I kind of want that color. And I miss when phones had more like distinct colors. Now it's just a different variant of blue, a different variant of black, white, gold that ain't really all that gold. It's like, yeah, it's really, I really wish Huawei would be able to come to the States eventually. You know, that would just be very nice. If not, one day I'll probably just import. But due to the fact that I am focusing on getting the One Mark III, um, I don't want to do that quite yet. I really want to see what this One Mark III can do stacked up to the S21 Ultra, because a lot of tech reviewers will just sit here and say, "Oh, it's just not as good because this, it doesn't have four lenses, even though the three lenses do the exact same thing." It's like uh, computational photography. Yeah, this is, it's going to be really interesting to see what that phone, how well that phone does. I have very good confidence that it's going to do well. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and say, "Oh, it's going to be terrible," or "It's going to be amazing," but I have very good confidence it's going to do well. Um, I feel like a lot of tech reviewers focus on things not being the same way as other phones, when every phone to me is better when they're unique and distinct and do their own kind of thing. You know, LG focused on giving a bigger main camera sensor, right? Oh, the folds. Um, you see, I'm not really. It's hard to say because I don't want to seem like they're garbage because I haven't touched them. You know, the one I really do like the way the Z Flip does it a little bit more than the Z Fold, because one, it's like a classic flip phone, right? But then it just flips out to a regular ass phone, pretty much like the Razor, the Razor foldable phone, right? But it's actually a flagship because there's a flagship chipset in it, or high end chipset in it. Um, I don't want to sit here and poo-poo the fold or anything like that because it's not like I'm trying to sit here and say oh, it's garbage. Because like I said, I just haven't touched it. It's a cool concept. I just wouldn't use it as a main phone. Like that's pretty much it because durability is key, especially with the place that I work. Like I need a phone that can just be reliable that I don't have to worry about babying all the goddamn time. It's already hard enough that these phones are basically just display now and that you have to get a thick case and they're made out of nothing but glass. I don't want to have a phone that has to be folded up, take up more space in my pocket, and then have a plastic big old display. Hey, that's cool. Like I'm not trying to knock you or anything like that. That's what's up. It's just for me personally, I for things like that I require I really do require durability, especially for the price. Like that's like especially the first fold, which was like what $2,300, and then they decide not to support it after the fact. That was something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way with that. But whatever. Z Fold 2 looks really clean, especially that that taller front display. It looks so goofy on the first fold. I was like, that really Samsung. But yeah, it's just mainly due to my lifestyle and due to what I do. I wouldn't necessarily use it as a main phone. I'd probably get it as like a phone to have at the house or something like that, just to play with and do like gaming or something on it. But other than that, it's not like I'm pretty sure you meant I'm yeah, I kind of figured you meant the fold too. I guess I just went more in general. But yeah, the fold 2 looks really was definitely the improvement that the fold needed. And it's really going to be really interesting to see to see what Samsung does with the Z Fold 3. Now I have to speak like I'm on Barney. Um, because it's going to have stylus support and all that stuff. And since there's no note this year, they pretty much, let me see if turning on this lamp will do a little bit better. There we go. It was getting a little too dark. It was looking quite artifacty. But yeah, the Z Fold 3 is going to be interesting. And since there's no note this year, the S21 Ultra is basically your note of this year. Um, we're just gonna have to see how well they handle using a stylus on a plastic screen. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Huawei pretty much got snubbed over here with how much more entwined they are with the Chinese government. I guess they kind of got snubbed, which sucks because the moment they had that AT&T partnership, Trump was like, no, and knocked them out of the market, which kind of sucks. But what can you do? Hopefully they can come back one day, but it sounds like they're kind of going to be teetering away from. Sounds like they may be teetering away from phones like LG. Who knows? They kind of had similar talks, but who knows, right? I hope not, because Huawei puts out some really nice hardware, right? They put out some really nice hardware. Let me get some water real quick. The stream is brought to you by Ice Mountain. No, not really, but yeah, it would just be really nice to see Huawei come back. Sucks they got snubbed, but Xiaomi is putting out some really sick hardware too. So if Huawei if does come back, they'll have some stiff competition because Samsung really does feel like they're doing nothing at this point in time. Um, they feel like they're just putting a phone out that does better than the iPhone, and that's it. And it's not bad, it's their main competition in the West. But it would have been nice to see some more, even more competition. Yeah, that is the main thing that's messing up a lot of things. A lot of things from this past year, right? Due to lockdowns and all this stuff. Like that's literally why the PS5 and Xbox Series X are basically non, or they may as well not exist. If you don't have it, they may as well not exist. Like because chip shortage. Same with like GPUs, like the 3090 may as well not exist if you don't have mad money or you're not Linus Tech Tips. Like this is basically it. Or you're not getting it from a very reputable like pre-built site, like Artesian Builds or something. And I'm not trying to knock them or anything like that. It's just interesting. And how places like Target are kind of handling like PS5s and stuff like that, where you can't even get them in store. You have to get them online. It just sucks. And then a whole bunch of like chip fab places, their factories got caught, their factories caught fire. There's a whole bunch of like very like just sad and disheartening stuff when it comes to that stuff, and it just sucks. I really don't want Huawei to to leave, man, and I also don't want them to go Snapdragon because the Kirin is a beast, you know. And it was nice to be able to have like Huawei with the Kirin, Samsung that does Exynos and Snapdragon, and Apple that does A series, right? Well, I feel like the A14 is kind of underwhelming to me personally. Like the iPad Pro, the iPad Pro 2020 stomps that chip in terms of 4K video rendering. But like I think a whole minute from what I remember doing. And it just man. And even then the S21 Ultra with the 888 stomps those for like 2 to 3 minutes. So shit. I know people don't seem to care about that crap, but I do. It actually shows the power of a phone and not just going on a goddamn synthetic benchmark, going on Geekbench and getting scores that don't tell you anything. Oh, it has 1,200, it has 5,000 on this and 1,200 on this. So, like, so what? What does that tell me about what it's going to do for these particular use cases? Nothing. Oh, DxO Mark said that it has a 99 on their score. It's the highest score they've ever had on a phone for cameras. So, and they've also said phones like the V50 don't have an underwhelming camera, like or the V40, because it doesn't do what the other phone does. Samsung could have made a real big deal for Exynos if after the 810 they just stuck with Exynos. For real though. The G8 that was able to do fully stabilized 4K 60, I keep saying footage, so I'm going to say footage, on both the main and the wide angle lens. You can switch between both while in manual mode seamlessly. That phone, like, that phone is garbage. That phone's not worth the money. But the iPhone that can't even do that is totally worth the money, even though they have the same size 12 megapixel sensors on all three. But it can't even do that in 4K 60. Like, and then when a manufacturer doesn't do the exact same, like, kind of HDR processing as either Apple or Samsung, they're snubbed too. Even Google now, you know. But Google now is hardware, which is very funny because they complain about, oh, the Pixel still has a 12 megapixel sensor. It's just not enough for these days. But you sit there and praise the iPhone's cameras. All of them still have 12 megapixel sensors. And I'll give you the Pro Max, which has that larger 12 megapixel sensor that's apparently that's better in low light, but still gets the same amount of lens dots and all that crap. And, and but by all means, constantly talk about the fact that a 12 megapixel sensor ain't enough when you still accept it with Apple. You still accept it with Samsung. Because other than the Ultra, the S20s have 12 megapixel cameras. The S20 FE has 12 megapixel cameras. The Plus has a 64 megapixel wide camera. But it's still like they play the game and they play it terribly because they act as if people can't literally look at what they do and be like, yeah, but this phone also has a 12 megapixel sensor. You said it's fantastic. So what's the difference? Every single year, every single pixel, you say that it has a fantastic camera, but this year, because it's not a hardware difference, it's not a hardware improvement, it's terrible, or it's outdated, or it's antiquated, or whatever the hell you want to say. Just like they wanted to say that about the headphone jack, but the V series, ever since Apple took out the headphone jack, constantly slapped every single phone around that didn't have a headphone jack, and even phones with headphone jacks with its quad DAC. You know, they just everything out there has to be outdated, or if it's not outdated, it's not as good. For real. It's like the Pixel is literally the best auto HDR experience you could get on a phone. I'm not about to sit here. I've never used, well, I've used the Pixel 4 XL, right? So I know that, like, it's effortless, right? You take the picture, it looks nice. The S21 Ultra, I can literally show you guys right now. The shutter lag. Look at that. Now I'm filling up my camera roll. But when you go into Pro mode, it's a little bit, but it's better. Like, it's not amazing, but oh yeah, I gotta do it. I'll do that later. It's gonna make me do you want to delete? And I gotta do it one by one unless I go to the gallery, and I don't feel like doing that right now. Um, but yeah, it's like just get a Pixel. You can do good 4K 60 video on there in auto. You can do good, very good with its camera, in terms of just pictures. Like every phone is going to have its issues when it comes to the camera, right? The S21 Ultra, I have a few issues with this camera. You know, the 108 megapixel honestly kind of feels like a gimmick. Like aside from in the base 12 megapixel mode, you get better background blur. Um, yeah, and the best photos I've ever taken, honestly, have been out of LG phones. And I'm not going, oh yeah, I'm an LG fanboy. No, this is because when I compared it to the phone that to a Samsung phone that I've always had next to it, or an iPhone that I would randomly have as well, which would also be the most recent iPhone of that time, the V60 or the LG phone would be more consistent with focus. It would be more consistent with detail. It would look better to me personally. And honestly, looking better is subjective. You know, it depends on what you like, but those things people don't talk about, and they use people's subjective. They use their opinions, and then they act as if it's fact. You can't use, and I'm not trying to pick on MKBHD in particular because I haven't watched his videos in years. It's just he's like the tech YouTuber right at the moment. So you can't use MKBHD's opinions and then go to somebody else's video of a smaller channel and then preach his word as if he's God or or act as if it's fact. It just doesn't make sense because you look at other sites. Android Authority, like the V60, they're like the V60 takes excellent photos. I didn't expect to hear that. If I'm going to be real, I didn't expect to hear anybody say an LG phone takes excellent photos anymore. Because ever since the G2 to G4, those are like the three phones that people actually said, and even the V10, and I think V20 as well. Those were the phones that people were like, yeah, LG has very good cameras. But the moment we started with this computational photography stuff, which was with the S7, um, people started swearing by that and saying that's the best way to do it when I don't necessarily think it is. I think at times when it does take the best possible shot out of a photo, this has happened plenty of times with me on this phone when it processes the photo after the fact. It takes the worst frame sometimes, or it focuses on the wrong thing. And it gets to the point where I don't know what to believe anymore. Like I don't know who to go to for that stuff anymore, but just go off of my word or the few tech reviewers I actually watch that actually know that I actually feel know what they're talking about because they're not just getting sent the phone and have to do a review in a week. Exactly. Exactly. And there were plenty that actually didn't give it its credit too because oh, what is the dual screen? What can it really be used for? It doesn't have 120 hertz, so it's not worth it. Um, the camera is good, but it's not a 108 megapixel sensor, and it only has two sensors, so it's bad because of that. It they say one thing that's good or two things that's good, then double the amount of things that are negative. Hey, show ass. Apologies, my cat was kneading on the couch, which she rarely does, but no, that ain't happening. But yeah, they give one or two praises and either double or triple it in the negatives, you know. And I think when people started seeing, like, in particular with, like, I don't want to pick on YouTubers, that's not what this channel is for. But when Austin Evans did his Xperia 5 Mark II review and basically said a whole bunch of stuff that either just wasn't true or he was just either that just wasn't true. I'll just say that. Um, People in the comments were calling him out for it, you know, and it was honestly kind of refreshing to see that. And I'm not trying to be the Austin Evans is trash. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it's more honestly. I'm not gonna sit here and mince my words. I'm probably not gonna ever get that huge anyway. So if he wants to sit here and pick his 2, 3 million subscribers, pick on 1,040 subscriber channel or whatever, you can go ahead. I don't care. But I'm just saying, it's like people see through your crap when you take terribly exposed photos that aren't even in focus and then say the camera isn't good because you didn't actually work to get those pictures to look good. And that's what most tech reviewers do now. That's something that Linus Tech Tips did one time. I forget what phone it was. And he admits at times like I take terrible photos. So I don't even slag him for it because like he at least admits he takes terrible photos. But it's and that's sweet. For real. Like I'm not trying to sit here and say the 108 megapixels is not useful. It's not cool. It's not nice, but it basically just becomes a talking point for you to flex at friends with. You know, my phone is a 108 megapixel sensor. What does that mean in real in the real world? Nothing, because at the end of the day, if that person's phone can take more pictures that are in focus and have detail, and you don't really have to worry about it, what does it matter how large the camera sensor is? It really doesn't matter. And now my dog's coming in the room. Um, the things that I feel like they want to focus on specs when it suits them, which doesn't really make sense to me. You shouldn't just focus on specs when you want to focus on specs. So either you focus on it or you don't, or at least bring them up and say, okay, this phone has 8 gigabytes of RAM and it feels like it's using it well. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't feel like it's getting bogged down in any sort of instance at all. Whereas, say, 8 gigabytes of RAM on a Samsung phone, sometimes it feels like it's going a little bit slow. I've had those issues before. And I've stated them. I'm like, yeah, like say the Note 8 and V30, which I know I keep bringing up, but the Note 8 had 6 gigabytes of RAM, and the V30 had 4. I think that's what it was. The V30 ran consistently smoother. Like the Note 8 would chug, it would get laggy, it would not keep apps up in the background long. It's like there was issues with that phone. And as much as I love the Note 8, those are things I brought up. I was like, it just doesn't keep apps in the background nearly as well, or stays consistently smooth nearly as well as the V30 did. And I brought that stuff up. It becomes this thing where a 1 week review is not enough. Oh, dude, that sucks. That sucks. Thankfully, I don't think I've had a phone that's had screen burning. I know what phone? What phone was it? I think it was the V10, I think. It's either the V10 or the V20 that had screen retention. Hey, I'm not laughing that you still have your V20. The V20 is still a look, man. Look at my channel. Look at my channel, and you'll see. I love the V20. Like I do. If I still like, I love the V20. That's not a phone that I would say is a bad phone to still keep. I just personally think that you should still keep it, but go to a newer phone mainly because security updates and all that stuff. That's really all I that was my main thing when I did the V20 and V60 thing when I said V20 wielders it's time. But thankfully 5G phones are like they're doing a very good job at making sure that there are more affordable 5G phones too. Um, that's something that I do feel is very good. Like it didn't start out by being, oh, only the flagships have 5G, and that's all you can get for like 2 to 3 to 4 years. Like, no, eventually they did end up pushing out cheaper 5G phones so that the 5G rollout could be better, and that's nice, right? But yeah, the V20 is I would still use it to this day for certain things. I still think the cameras are really good. I still think if you get like what was it, a 4800 milliamp hour or a 4580 milliamp hour battery I had in my V20, you could use that. Um, the only things that I feel are kind of outdated about it is the fact that it still has 64 gigabytes of storage, of main storage, and 4 gigs of RAM. That's pretty much it. Like, those are the things. And it was kind of my dream phone to be like, LG, just bring back the V10 or V20. For me personally, maybe the V10 because I just like to build a little bit better, um, and just upgrade the specs. That's all you got to do. Like give it a Snapdragon, not even give it a Snapdragon 860. You give it an 855, and I would still be good with it. Now maybe 865 because I would want unlimited 4K video recording. That's probably it. But yeah, just do that because there's things that the V10 did that still no phone does. Like the V10 was able to do 16 by 9 full resolution photos, a 16 megapixel camera. So we would do 16 megapixel 16 by 9 photos. You try to do that on here, right? Which will bend it down to 12 megapixels. Yeah, $400 for a V60 is a steal. I would definitely say do that. But say you want to do, but that's kind of what was happening with my V20, and that's honestly kind of the fear that I had a lot more is that the phone was going to be slowing down. So you know, but look, you can do 16 by 9 photos on here, right? Or you can do full resolution, you can do full frame. But the problem is, and I'll just take a photo, and then I'll go into the camera. I don't even. This is what I don't like about the details in the gallery app on Samsung phones. It doesn't tell you the megapixels of the image. It doesn't tell you that. So I have to go on like Google Photos if I can find it. It goes down to 7.2 megapixels if you do full frame. So or full frame, not full frame. Full I guess you would say full frame. I don't know. Let me turn that back. 4 by 3 is how you get 12 megapixels. And you obviously get the 4 by 3. But I think the main problem that I still have with this phone is that the focus is still pretty damn inconsistent. Like the laser autofocus definitely helps. You can see it in my focus comparisons, right? It's a tad like it's slower than the V60s, and apparently the V60 uses its Z camera to focus as well, and which is very cool. Actually, it focuses very quick. Now, like it's probably the most consistent focuser I have, but yeah, in terms of that, I would say yeah, get a V60 at 400. It's a I know I keep switching topics, but I'm trying not to just sit here and be on one subject only. So yeah, get the V60 at 400. That's a very good buy. Um, like the only thing you may miss is the quad HD. I don't know if you care about resolution like that, but uh, it depends on the note, honestly. It depends on what you valued out of your V20. If you valued the headphone jack, if you valued the cameras and their consistency, if you valued stuff like that, I would say just go V60. Um, but the problem that I've seen with older Samsung phones is that eventually Samsung starts pushing ads to their phones. Like I've already seen a couple ads on my S21 Ultra, right? When you go into something like Samsung Pay, you'll literally see ads pop up on top of here. And sometimes when you go to just swipe up and pay, an ad will pop up right there. And it'll literally make you exit out of it before you can pay. That happened to me one time. It doesn't happen all the time, but one time is all that's fucking needed, right? And boy, that pissed me off. I was like, really, Samsung? You're gonna make me go to Google Pay doing this stuff. Not that Samsung Pay has any real like intrinsic like value or benefit over Google Pay now. There's no MST on Western on US the new US the Snapdragon Samsung phones. There just isn't. So I can't use it at say a gas station that doesn't have mobile payments. So that sucks. But yeah, I've tended to see with older Samsung phones that, um, especially after a few updates, they will indeed get laggy. It depends on which note you're talking about. I think the Note 10s are still good, but again, if you valued the things like the headphone jack, then I just wouldn't do it. Personally, I just wouldn't do it and just go to the V60. You definitely won't be disappointed if you just go to the V60. But if you don't do much on your phone, then you're totally fine with going to like an A52, A72, like you said. Um, Go with that. Like it's totally up to you. I'm not sitting here trying to be like, don't just go to the V60. I'm not trying to say that. Do what's right for you. You know. Yep. The Note 9 is the last Note with headphone jack, which is stupid because the S10s had headphone jacks, but the Note 10s didn't. And what sucks on these new Samsung phones is that you can't even use on the Note 10s you can, but on the S21s, what you can't do is use a pass through dongle for audio. You have to have one that has its own dedicated DAC in it. So features, man, you know, it they like to take them out, and it's the most useful features they take out. Like, and it's also if you decide to go with the Note, either of the Note 10s, and you value SD card support, just go with the Note 10 Plus because the regular Note 10 doesn't have SD card support. It just has base 256 gigs of storage. which is which is a good amount of storage if you don't do a lot. But I gave my homie my base Note 10, and he loves it. He doesn't do nearly as much stuff as I do on my phone, so he won't he won't really reach the storage limit like I already kind of do on here. So yeah, yeah, like I said, you value the headphone jack V60. If you don't, and I mean, if you value the headphone jack and you also value the high end audio from the quad DAC, go V60 because you'll feel that downgrade. You definitely will because even phones with even like the A52, A72 phones like that, even though they have headphone jacks, they don't put quality in there. Yeah, Samsung omits a lot of crap, dude. I was looking at the Note 10 Lite earlier today because I was thinking, I was like, isn't there a Note 10 Lite? And I looked it up and I was like, yep, there's a Note 10 Lite. The V60 does have a quad DAC. The V60 has a quad DAC. But the Note 10 Lite, here's the main problem I have with the Note 10 Lite. Okay, so it has everything the Notes have, right? But it's a cheaper Note. It doesn't have Samsung DeX. It doesn't have Samsung DeX. And the A52, A72, those phones, they also don't have Samsung DeX. But I guess due to the fact that they're using a lower chipset, I don't know the logistics, but you can't even say lower end chipset because guess what? LG Velvet, LG Wing, both have Snapdragon 765s. Both have a desktop mode. They both have a desktop mode. So I can't even say, oh, the chipset's not as good. Now, Samsung DeX is fleshed out and all that stuff. Yeah, man. They take out a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense when it comes to cheaper phones. It just doesn't make sense. Like honestly, if you want a phone with stylus support, you'd be better off going with either a V60, or if you don't mind losing the power, you can go to a Velvet, and you'd still get stylus support. You'd get dual screen, and you'd get a desktop mode if you ever want to use that. Those are things that are like very nice. And I'm glad LG didn't skimp on that because they used to do that stuff. Right. The G5, which came right after the V10, didn't have a manual photo mode. Or no, it had a manual photo mode. It didn't have a manual video mode. And that was the key. That was one of the key features of the V10 was that it had a manual video mode, and the G5 didn't have that. But ever since after that, LG has been put them on every single phone. So they learned. Samsung, I don't know what is going on, but they just like to take stuff out for no reason, and then who knows if they're going to bring it back because people keep buying the phones. Like people keep buying these phones, right? And you can't even get on me about this because I bought mine through Swappa, so I didn't even give them money. You know, complete in box, sealed, brand ass new, $900. Like it's well, technically it was like 1,026, but the base price was $900. Yeah, man. So, oh, that's why I get decent. That's why I would say invest in a decent case. The problem is a lot of cases, if you want like super rugged ones or super expensive, outer boxes are just super expensive. The 4A 5G is like a really good phone too. Like it's basically a Pixel 5 with a does the Pixel 4A 5G have 90 hertz? I know the 5 is 90 hertz, but yeah, it has the larger battery and it gives you 5G. But I would definitely advise you to get like, if they're available, like a UAG case. Well, UAG cases are expensive. Get a get a God, what the fuck am I thinking of? Speaking. Get a speaking case, like the tough art cases, which are like, which range from like $16 to $20. And I dropped this phone in my case too, and it survived, and it was pristine, and the case didn't really have any damage on it either. So cases that are like just fit and stay on and are easy to take on and take off are very durable and rigid now. Like, look at how rigid this case is. Like, look at how rigid this case is. Now I have a big boy case on my V60, which, you know, is better to have mainly because it's my V60. But it's just something that I feel you should definitely invest in because a good case will help you. Don't get me wrong. I used to I still don't really like getting cases with how beautiful these phones are, right? With how beautiful these phones are. And with how much they sit here and be all braggadocious about the design. And oh, we finally made it a black that's actually black. We've invented black. It's doesn't it doesn't matter because you just slap a goddamn case on it anyway. And while it looks sleek because it's a black phone with a black case, you know, the ruggedized Chinese phones. Which ones? Because I haven't really paid attention to them. The only the only ruggedized phones I know of are like the Kyocera's and all this stuff that are here. But yeah, the only ones I really know are the ones that are here. But yeah, which ones exactly? Because so long as they don't compromise on too much and they're affordable and you don't really care if it's powerful or not, I'd say go. And if they have decent reviews, I'd say my thing is if the phone is brand and if the phone just came out, right? You already it's already like battered and beaten. Then that's where I have a problem. But if it has like a couple of like scratches from use on it or whatever, I'm like, whatever. Like so long as the back is fine, I don't care. The front being, so long as they're not those rainbow scratches, I don't care. Like I really don't care. But yeah, Elephone. Let me look those up. Or Ulophone. Yeah, Elephone. Elephone. Rugged. Rugged budget smartphone. How good is the damn, that thing actually looks pretty damn nice. What is Ulophone? Dude, like it's weird, right? I actually like the look of these phones. They remind me of the good old Samsung Galaxy Actives, right? That's what these are. And like 369? Like, look at how nice this looks. Look how clean that looks, right? That looks really nice. Now, obviously, and they don't have super chunky bezels. Like, look at that. If you care about that, they don't have super chunky bezels. Like four cameras. Again, if you care about that, and Let me look at a 5200 milliamp hour battery. IP68 69K waterproof. Um, Dimensity 800. So it's using a MediaTek chip. Makes sense. Um, yeah, these phones look nice. Like there's, I think it's something about being a man where you like the whole rugged army look type of deal. But yeah, yeah, man. And you know what's really cool? I know I keep bringing it back to V60, but the Z camera can it can it can have a thermal camera on it. Can it can detect heat. So I downloaded this thermal camera. It shows you the temperature shit. It's really cool. Um, Gaming phones. Um, I really, yeah, the Z camera on the Z camera on the V60. People complain about, oh, the dude, it only has two cameras, but the Z camera on it, the one that's like right next to the wide angle lens, it can do 3D scanning. It can do 3D mapping, and it could also do it could also do thermal stuff too. So it's really cool. I tried it a little bit. I didn't get the 3D scanning all that well, but it was. I'm gonna try it a little bit more and see what it does. I do want to do a video on it, but in terms of gaming phones, I really wanted to get the ROG Phone 5, but that phone took too damn long to come out. So that's why I got this. And I don't regret it. The main reason I was amped for the ROG Phone 5 was because it had a headphone jack with a hi-fi DAC in it, made by the same company that makes the quad DAC, right? It was an ESS Saber DAC. It wasn't the quad DAC. And from what I've heard from other tech reviewers that actually care about that stuff and use the V60, it's not on the same level as the quad DAC, but it still powers high impedance headphones and things like that. So I really wanted to get that phone. It just took that damn long. Like it took like 2 months. And I was like, I'll just get the Ultra. And I don't regret it at all. Even though I have my problems with the Ultra, it's still a very nice phone. Like it's still a very nice phone despite its faults. I don't think it's the Ultra of the Ultras. It's definitely the Mi 11 Ultra, but it's definitely a very good phone for those Samsung users, right? But then the phones like the Black Shark phones, I watched a couple review. I watched a review on that, and then the Red Magic. Red. I don't know why the fuck I can think of the Red Magic as well. I was looking at those as well. The Black Shark, while it doesn't have an 888, doesn't really matter because it's like a slightly beefed up H65. That's what the 870 is basically. And was it a 165 hertz display or 144? I think it's 165. It has I think it just has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Let me look. For 4500, I believe. uh, Black Shark 4. And you know it's really funny? It kind of looks like a V60 too. Like, look at that. It kind of looks like a V60. But let me go to their site so I can get these specs. I think I literally was on their site too. But yeah, this phone is only like goes and it has a 4500 charger, and it literally think word. I really do kind of want the Surface Duo, man. I really do. Like I know, oh, the cameras aren't that great, and oh, there's a Snapdragon 855, but it's there's something about that phone, that makes me say, yeah, I want it. I want to use it for stuff like emulation. You know, using it for emulation would be kind of damn cool. It would be like the dual screen on the V60, where probably not probably not as good in terms of like the haptics. V60 has really good haptics, but it would be really nice to see. It would be really cool to see how that does. And people slide, oh, there's 855. The 855 is still plenty powerful. I still use my G8 to this day for a lot of stuff. Like, and it ain't as cracked up as it is to be. The 888, to be real, it gets super hot. Um, and games, and a game that used to play at 60 frames per second on here that doesn't play on 60 frames per second on the iPhone. It plays on 60. It plays at 60 FPS on my G8. Is Marvel Contest of Champions. It used to play on here, but then it went right back down to 30, and boy, it sucks. Like developers don't realize how good 60 frames per second feels. We're not going to talk about 120 FPS, but just 60, because there's a lot of games out there that just don't run at 60. And it doesn't make sense. Like the South Park Phone Destroyer game, what else doesn't run at 60? And it's kind of like it's sacrilege at this point. Oh, the Fist of the North Star game doesn't run at 60. The look, man, get out of my way. Um yeah, quite a few don't. But you know what game is very weird and I didn't expect to run at 120 hertz? Like the Sonic Dash 2. This runs at 120 hertz and it's weird to me. It doesn't make any sense. I think Subway Surfers does as well. But yeah, games that run at 60 FPS just feel 120 FPS feel very nice, obviously. Dead Cells feels fantastic. But more games just need to be at 60 at the very least. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, I would really like the Microsoft Surface Duo. I really would. Like one, it's an obscure phone, right? Two, it's unique. Three, it's just cool. It's just cool. And they did a very good job at they did a very good job at, well, from what I've seen. I don't know about it in practice, but at making both displays work at the same time. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about ending it here too, actually. Yeah, thanks for dropping by. I'll definitely have more streams. Um it's just something it's just something I decided to do because I had like a whole week off of work. It's me and my girl's anniversary, so I decided to stay at the apartment. But yeah, thinking about ending it here too. It's been 2 hours. And I really do appreciate y'all for coming by and talking. It's really appreciated. Obviously, this is going to stay up. I'm not going to privatize it or delete it or anything. So if you want to sit here and drop comments and all that crap, do it. This is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday night, whatever time of day it is in your area.